What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. So excited about this video. If you're new to us
and we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's get it.
What does the word American mean to a Brazilian?
Americans have a way of treating us as if we were an American colony, and we certainly don't like it.
Uh-oh.
To an Ethiopian?
Some, not many, consider the Americans as the Italians just because they are white, and they have just complete hatred for the Americans.
To a South African?
Oh.
The dawning of a new day. And yet I fear the famous words of Spengler. After the highest point is reached, decline begins.
To an Italian?
It often means people with no culture and a childish...
We want, presented by the New York Uniform for High School. It features teenagers from 34 countries from all over the earth, together in unrehearsed discussion of some of their common problems. Each of these young people was selected in a nationwide forum competition put on under the auspices of the Ministries of Education in their home countries. They were brought to the United States by Pan American World Airways and Trans World Airlines, and are here for a 3-month visit during each stay in 4 different American families and host communities. But let me introduce you to the students who are participating in this discussion.
Okay, so before they cut her off, she said that we have a childish education. Now, this is in 1958. I still feel like they did this whole era a disservice without including Americans in these debates, because...
That makes sense.
Yes, of all backgrounds. That it would have amplified what is already some great debates. You know?
Yeah. You can't get to the core of a conversation without having the person at the table that you're talking about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I did like that she did mention that they have all common problems that they're dealing with around the world.
That's why
and they're bringing it to the table so everybody can have an idea of what's happening on today's panels. Yeah.
South Africa said that we're going to decline.
How she started through the sunrise. That sounded about right.
Listen. Okay, keep going.
From Brazil is 18-year-old Susie Rigolette. Susie, how are things going in your host family? Any problems?
Gosh, I sure have.
Have you?
Yes, you know, before I came here to the States, they told me I'd have to go to lots of parties. You know, they haven't taken me to one party, and not one American day.
She mad.
I feel offended and left out.
How about you, Rena, from South Africa? Been having any interesting experiences?
Well, yes, I had a very interesting experience just 2 days ago. I met a girl from Belgium, and, well, she spoke Flemish, and I speak Afrikaans, and yet we understood each other perfectly.
Had you known the two languages were so alike?
Well, I didn't know that before, except that I wrote to a pen friend in Belgium, and I could read the letters, but I didn't know that we would be able to understand each other so well when we actually spoke the languages.
That's a new fact for me, too. How about you, Yilma? How are you getting on? Yilma Tadesse from Ethiopia.
It's exactly different from what my dear friend Susie had. In me, there are lots of parties. I had been offered lots of parties, and I had to attend them and dance there. But unluckily, there are many girls who would like to dance with me. And so the student council had, first of all, to receive an application for a dance, and then have it signed by me. And on the whole, all things went on very well. I mean, with my family, the faculty advisor of the school, and the students. And I have a terrible thing. I couldn't tear apart myself from this community and the school.
It makes it hard when you can stay only 2 weeks, doesn't it, and have to leave. I know, but if you stayed in just one community for the whole 3 months, you generalize and think that all America was like that. So it's probably fair, but I know it's hard. Marcella from Italy, By the way, what are people doing about your name? Do they call you
And I
Marcy?
feel like that's what people go through today. They generalize, and they get a terrible idea of a group of people or a race or a nationality or a culture, and then they start to feel a certain type of way because they, from one side, we said this in the last video. Actually, it came out of your mouth first. A lot of people are one-sided when it comes to how they think about certain stuff.
Yeah, and they don't realize that they're closed-minded.
Closed-minded.
Yeah,
100%, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they start making comments about many blah 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 this, many blah blah blah. How you know many think that way and do that?
Yeah,
if you haven't seen many.
And many have never sat to your table before. None of them, actually.
And you only visit one part.
Right. Come on, man.
Stella?
No, American people can't say Marcella as we do in Italian, so
Marcella.
they
She got a lot to
call
say, I
me
feel.
Marcy.
Good nickname. Glad you got it here. Well, how
Oh, that's American right there.
They're going to nickname you.
We're going to
Off
give you
the
a
back.
nickname.
Off the back. Yup.
Marcy.
are things going, Marcy?
Oh, quite well. I am quite at home here.
That's good.
But I was really astonished because I've never seen people who kiss so much as here you do. I mean, people, of course, young person, girls and boys.
It's part of your high school education, isn't it, Marcy?
Yeah, it is.
You take a course in kissing.
So look, maybe it's too early to ask you this yet, but could I ask whether you've so far got any dominant impression, your first impression of the United States?
Well, you see, in Brazil, the impressions we have of the States is what you see in the movies. So when you see a musical, you think life in America is just dandy. Everybody floats around in a rosy cloud, singing songs with a beautiful and handsome young man beside you. Then you see a gangster movie, and all the Americans are bloodthirsty and violent. So when I came here, with an American life, an American family, it was so different. I felt so at home. It's a real family life. You know, I've complained about the parties, but maybe it's just as good because I'm with my family every evening. We watch TV, we talk, we have discussions, we do homework. So it's just as good.
So your image of America made from movies, where every young girl had a young man and danced all the time, hasn't proved to be true in your case, has
No,
it?
not yet.
Maybe it will. Maybe that will come
I
later.
hope so.
Any other impressions?
Yes, I do. I thought the Americans would be hospitable and friendly. And as a matter of fact, it became true. I proved it. Starting from the airplane, the hostesses were just as sisters, rather. And the faculty advisor from the school, my host families, and everything got to be true. And it's really wonderful. I'm amazed.
That's good stuff.
Is that your dominant impression so far from America? Anything here that you hadn't expected?
Oh, sure, there is one thing that I didn't expect. It's really funny, but I have to say it.
Go ahead.
There is a dog in the family I am in. It's called Trooper. That's its name. And it's quite familiar. And at lunchtime and at dinner, it just pulls itself to the table and asks for food. It's really just contrary to my country. They wouldn't even, dogs don't even pass the dining hall at all. And it's rather peculiar and strange.
You got any dominant impressions, Marcy?
Yes, I got another one about animals too, because I was really astonished when I arrived here, seeing how big your cats are. Really big.
Cats? C-A-T-S?
Yes, really.
I think bigger than Italian ones.
Yes. Oh, I don't know. Perhaps they eat vitamins and I think so. No, because I don't know if you went to a supermarket, but I went, and did you see the big section where you can buy all the food for the dogs and so? Oh, it was
Most food for animals and for us.
Let's come back to you, Rena. Any dominant impressions so far?
Well, it might seem strange, but I think the inscription upon the Statue of Liberty, which I also saw at my arrival at Idlewild today, "Give me your tired, your poor. I lift the lamp beside the golden door." I think that will be my one dominant impression of America whenever I get back and think of the wonderful time with the Forum.
I didn't know it was in the airports now. Times have changed. It used to be just on the Statue of Liberty. Now I'm glad we've got it in the airports, too. Now, I want to come back to some of the fairly startling things you all said at the beginning. Susie, you said that North Americans or United Statesians in Brazil, I won't call us Americans because you're Americans too, if I can think of it, acted and treated you as if you were an American colony. Now, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you know, most Americans in Brazil are tourists. I live in Rio, and Rio is a tourist city. So they come there, they just ask, they act as if they own the world, and they just look down on us like that. So we really don't feel like very at home with them. But I had another experience of Americans too, because I lived for 1 year in an American camp. It was near Rio. My father worked for Light and Power. We had to live there. We were segregated from the rest from towns. We were just a little camp. And there the Americans acted differently. Well, for one thing, I had to learn the American language, the English language, because, as you know, the Americans wouldn't think of learning Portuguese. Oh no.
Man.
So I had to learn it. And so I saw that the Americans are really very friendly. They love animals. Yeah, they love animals, Yilma. And they're always in...
That's funny she mentioned that we all have, like, we won't dare to learn another language as quick as everybody else have to learn when they come into America.
And this was in 1958, and people still say that about us.
They do. Oof. That is true.
I remember we was talking about our dog on one video, and somebody said, we don't look at them as pets.
Yeah. That's how it is. Definitely, a dog is like a whole sibling. It's a child. It could be a loved one. However you want to look at it. We love them.
Yeah, they have our last name and everything, and the middle name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They listen. Talk to them just like a human.
a hurry. They often themselves...
But our dog ain't coming to our kitchen table. That's where we draw the line.
We got our boundaries.
don't know why they're in a hurry. They just run around.
What about Americans in some of your other countries? How about Italy, Marcy?
Well, I know that there are a lot of Americans in Italy, but who live there too. I think that Italian people think that all the Americans are very, very rich, and so perhaps they would like better if American tourists, when they go to Italy, spend much more money. I don't know, because Italian people think that Italian Americans don't spend enough money in our country.
You said just now that the Ethiopians dislike the Americans as a result of the Italians.
Yes, this is really shocking for me. Why?
Just wait. It's really wonderful. Don't you know the relation between Ethiopia and Italy?
Yes.
From 1936 to 1941. Would you mind telling me if you have come across it in your history? I don't think so you would. But let me hear it.
Oh, I like better if you speak. What do you learn in your school?
Do you mean
we don't learn very much about the very, very recent history in our school.
You don't even know the countries you have tried to colonize?
Yes, I know this. And I think that they built many roads too in Europe, and I think that they did good things too.
Yeah, that's true. But don't you know what you did? I mean, didn't you learn in your history that what Italy did to Ethiopia? In what year? And when did they go out or things like that? Don't you come across?
Go on, tell us.
That's a fair question, Marcy. Tell us what you learned, or what you know about the Italian trouble with Ethiopia.
Oh, I don't know very much indeed. I think that perhaps I studied something about it, but now I forgot it.
Well, I'll be pleased to tell you if you haven't come across it in your history. Well, it should have been, because you have been in my country for 5 years.
Yeah.
From 1936 to 1941.
Yes,
you came and bombarded our country, killed all of people, and did all sorts of things. And still you don't know the history of this thing. Well, luckily...
Wow. I find it so weird that she don't know about the history between Italians and Ethiopians when they tried to colonize them and the people banded together and fought for their country. Wow.
Not taught, not in schools, not talked about. That's
And it wasn't that long ago during this time. About 2 decades. She didn't know that was something huge. Yeah. But one thing about them Ethiopians, every time they're on these debates, baby, they know their history.
Yeah. And I just love that they're talking so openly without having this feud or anger just being displayed, because you can see the times how it changed with debates from how it is today. You would see an argument slash out in a second compared to how they're talking now. And these are children.
Yes.
Children compared to these adults.
Yeah.
And I just got a big respect for him because he's so knowledgeable and willing to express what happened through times, and she's so accepting and being like, oh, really? Well, we didn't learn about that. Thank you for telling me. Please tell me more.
She said she forgot about it.
And this is how unification begins. Yep. When everybody can share history stories and be in agreement and understand and apologize and, take accountability for what happened,
Telling our story.
Exactly, yeah.
We were kicked out in 1941.
Oh, Yoma.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't know it because it's much more important to the Ethiopians than to the Italians.
Well, of course, I admit. It must be as well important to know for her, what her country has done, what countries Italy dominated, what countries Italy tried to colonize. Don't you think that would at least be important to know what countries she colonized?
It would be a little important to them and very important to you.
It's very important to me and I know it well.
Hold on, sister.
And I have explained it.
It had to be important to the Italians because the reason they went there was important to them. So why wouldn't it be as important to them?
And isn't Eritrea? They were able to colonize Eritrea, I believe.
Yeah, around.
I would have to fact check that, but yeah. So how is that not important? Now, okay, I'm questioning that, but I also, there's some things in our history books, we see what's happening now, they want to take some things out. But there's some things that I know I didn't learn about in school.
But you wouldn't deem it as not important, though.
Right. That is very important. What if I want to go somewhere?
Yeah. I think the lady should just speak up and say, maybe it is important to me. Instead of letting her side note that type of conversation in there and having him feel like he has to explain for her why it's important to her.
It's so scary to me. Like when I sit back and think about it sometimes.
What's that?
Everyday citizens are the people that other countries, and I'm not just speaking of the United States, but we have to know our country's history with other countries.
Yeah.
Because if I wanted to go to, I don't want to call it out, but if I wanted to go to this place, right? And I don't know the history between my country and that country.
Use them for example.
The bad taste in their mouth.
Yep.
Especially
when it's fresh.
Right.
That's why you need to know your history. Yeah. You can't sit at every table so easily. You know what I'm saying? Because if you feel like you're being discriminated against, or you feeling like they're giving you a hard time, they're not allowing you to get these type of benefits from them, then you questioning what is it about me, and then the whole time it's history that had led up to that.
Why are you treating me this way? And I'm not even in the government.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
History.
So.
To you.
I wonder if this raises a question that we ought to tackle. Is it a good thing that in schools today in 1958 you don't learn much about 1938?
Is that a good thing? Is it a good thing?
And is it true of other events of the 1930s?
Well, I think it's a bad thing. I would like to know much more of how
there she go.
Of our government, of our economy, and of all the things that are happening now in the world. In our school, we don't study this kind of thing. We just study history as far as I think the first World War.
Let me say this now. This is just using a statement that can help people really tackle this conversation correctly. It's like you're hooking it's like somebody's trying to hook their homegirl up with a guy who has a history of psychopath. But they don't tell the chick that, and she deals with the retaliation of his like knowing the history prevents you from being in certain relationships or dealing with certain passed on traumas. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's important for everybody to know a little bit of history, if not all of it. If y'all can get that information, give me some.
Basic knowledge.
Just give us a little bit as well.
Just the basic knowledge, at least. Because as much as they drilled World War II into the history. I think we had 1 full year where we learned about World War II.
Yeah,
It would have been nice to know how that really started, how they looked at the United States and saw how they was treating our people in the South, in other places too, but, you know, the segregation in the South. It would have been nice to know that they saw the blueprint of, can I say this on YouTube?
I don't know. What you want to tell me my ear first?
They looked at the blueprint of what the United States was doing here.
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah,
treat
yeah.
their people like that in
That's how,
Germany.
I mean that goes. You could date that even further back with blueprints being copied.
Exactly.
From how people was living their lifestyle that was not even in relation to how people was living their lifestyles. I mean, you would go to their land and die because you can't live like them, but you're taking what they did and bring it over there so you can live like them.
So you can live better.
Better because you see how it was working and thriving for them. We ain't putting a name to nothing, but we talking.
Go research.
To study, for example, Italy under fascism and the Second World War.
Yes, I think that perhaps I'm studying the things next year, I think. But I'm not sure.
But now, at 18, your history that you've studied in school has just brought you up to 1914.
1914.
Yeah.
Were you doing any?
1914.
Were you as curious for history at 18?
Yeah, I was curious in history as 12.
At 12. Yeah.
I was having the conversations with the teacher. Me and the other students was drawing, talking to each other, and everything else. I was talking.
This would be more for a debater than like, because they have children who was in
debate.
No. They had children that was in debate classes and historians and stuff like that, and their field of work was like after school and graduation, I'm going to college for this. That would be more in the field for them. But I don't know too many people who was like, I'm going to be head in the books about history at 18 years old. We had like a different curvature when it came to wanting to be somebody in life. Like, me was like football. So you already know I wasn't thinking about no history.
You wasn't thinking about school. You always play football.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
It's just person. But, I mean, we all need basic knowledge of everything.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like when it came to history, when I was in school, they taught us the basics. You know, it depends on the teacher, too, because I had a real good history teacher.
Facts. Okay.
A real good history teacher who, any assignment she gave us, I was acing that and asking for more assignments. I still have the awards she was giving because I was doing so much work. Like, she provided that. So it depends on the teacher.
And the student.
You know, and the student who
wanted
you
wanted to know.
I wanted to know everything.
Were you one of them people that
class.
wanted to know? Because I'm curious to know, because a lot of times we tell ourselves, what is something you would tell your younger self? You may have a child, a sibling, or a nephew or niece that may be coming up on that age. They can also represent your younger self. When you can go back and give them information about what I could have done differently. You know what I'm saying? Diving into history in a certain time in my life that could have helped me make better choices of where I want to be in the field of work.
Yeah. And it also depends on the field of work and the student. You know, everybody isn't as interested in history as
that is true. That's true.
the next, you know? So
I was in football.
maybe they more interested in the economy or
growing trees.
Language or math, you know? Science.
Yeah.
If you don't study current history, what kind of things do you study in school, Marcy? Now, I don't mean to be unkind, but you said that the Americans had a childish education and were completely uncultured. What do you learn in school?
Oh, we learn a lot of things which I don't know if they are very useful for us. For instance, we in my school, I'm attending a classical school, and so we learn Greek and Latin, history and philosophy, and a lot of very old-fashioned things.
Oh,
but you haven't really learned yet about the fascist period in Italy.
No, I think I'm learning something next year.
Well, now, what about in Ethiopia, Yilma? What have you learned in school about this period? Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we celebrate the day the Italians were kicked out every year. And I don't mean it's our independent day, we had our independence even before Christ, rather. And we just remember that date and just celebrate it. And of course, every individual in Ethiopia wouldn't ever forget what the Italians had done to us.
What the Italians do to
Girl, just say.
Many people, innumerable.
Why?
Well,
They'd like to colonize our country, and we didn't let them do so. Well, we have to sacrifice so many bloods and things like that in order to keep the freedom of our country. Don't you think that's good?
Oh yes, perfectly true.
This is funny to hear the ladies asking, what did certain colonizers do to certain groups of people. Because when you're doing the colonizing, you're not questioning the work nor worried about it. But when you're on the other side of the other end of the stick and you're getting hit and beat and killed and taken advantage of, and your land and your people's all suffering, you remember that joint, bro.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
So yeah,
Everything.
that is interesting, and I feel like I'm gonna mention to me, they got people like that in today's society who said, I didn't know y'all was dealing with this, or I didn't know this term was a problem for y'all to hear. Like, yeah, people still like that today.
People told us that in our comment section before. They was like,
I
they
read
didn't
it.
realize
Yeah.
that after slavery that we still had our people on the plantations.
Yeah,
They didn't
yeah.
realize that. I need to hear what she about to say, because this is 1958. I want to hear what she got to say.
Hold on, I brought it back to
We have to sacrifice so many bloods and things like that in order to keep the freedom of our country. Don't you think that's good?
Oh, yes, perfectly true.
Don't you think it's good?
Well, Rena, tell me about the education in your country. Do you learn really history up to date?
Well, I wouldn't say as up to date as in American schools, for in American schools they seem to know everything more about the present history than about the past. And yet I think perhaps in this atom age of ours, it's more important. But I'd like to tell Yilma just something. Yilma, do you know that you were talking about your very old country, but I don't know if you ever heard about the Zimbabwe ruins it's more or less in Rhodesia, a little bit north of South Africa, the Union. And we think that the Ethiopian people built it there, and there can be found no traces whatsoever which people inhabited it or whatever happened.
It's probably the Ethiopians, I agree.
I'm sure.
And that's the proof that our country, Ethiopia, existed before Christ also.
Very good.
You say that your people came down from the Middle East. You are not native African.
No, not at all.
Ethiopians.
As a matter of fact, we don't have the Negro blood at all. And we migrated from the Semitic type of the Saudi Arabia and Yemen and the countries just away from the Red Sea. And the origin could be said that some people drafted and came to the northern part of Ethiopia. And then they migrated inwards. And time went on, they stayed and stayed. And then the Hamitic races from the bordering, from the south and from Sudan and things like that, from the countries in Africa.
Excuse me for interrupting, but if you don't have Negro blood, then this is news to me. The Ethiopians, I would think, wouldn't have any particular feeling about race relations in other parts of Africa.
We don't at all feel any relationship. It's none of our concern. We just don't care about it, as we don't have the Negro blood. We shouldn't have to worry ourselves. The color you might, the color of my face is just dark because it's due to the exposure of the sun. And my country is a mountainous country.
Okay, y'all, this is 1958. I don't know if he's the same. I gotta keep saying it. I don't know if he's the same student from one of the other ones who said the exact same thing, that they're just dark because of the exposure of their face. To the sun, whatever.
Oh, I remember that. Not verbatim, but I remember that.
Ethiopians don't think about this today, like that, like what he's saying. Okay.
Yeah.
As we've heard from Ethiopians through video and our comment section, they say they don't think of that like that today. It's 1958. Okay.
Yeah, and prior to just relationships, when it comes to different, groups in history with colonization and slavery and all that crap, like, when you get an understanding of that, you start to really look at all this information a lot deeper and in depth, because it's deeper than just saying, oh, I'm just here and this is us. Like, it's never just that simple, because everybody was just about getting colonized. You know what I'm saying? The wars and
caste system.
It's just what it was. That was the blueprint over the whole world at one point.
Still today. Yeah,
so that mindset and how it is today, like, I feel like just a little more information involved with that around the world would help you get a better understanding of this.
Yeah, we're more connected than we realize.
100%. Absolutely.
And this is regardless of race and culture. We're more connected. Baby, I've been paying attention.
Yeah.
To what's going on now.
It's 800 feet above sea level. And it's more or less nearer to the sun than the other countries that lay near the equator.
Yoma?
Yeah.
You're not white?
and not black.
Not black. What are you?
It's just in between.
Hilma, and I would like to know, are you, for instance, very much interested in the South African stand, more or less objective towards that?
Not at all. We wish you would do things fairly. I mean, we wish you don't treat the native South Africans as you do right now. But as a matter of fact, we don't care. We just listen to your policies and things that go on in South Africa. But I'd like to ask you one question. Would it become more, would it be, do you think it would be a little...
Wait, just before...
Would the matter be worse or better, within these few years? Or what is the stand right now of this South African problem?
Okay, so this is where I start to get confused on the purpose behind the group, because I understand that there are students who's in America for three months. They're moving around every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The government is sending them, but the way that they're answering questions is like they're a representative of the government and not just a school system. You know, so it's like
he's ain't talking about America right now.
Right. He's answering the questions as if he's answering for the government. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah. It's called a plant. You know what I'm saying? It's when you put people it's when you put people in position to speak in a way that you have already sat down and had conversations with them about. Okay. You get what I'm saying? It's I can hear you saying stuff in behalf of me without me having to sit there for you, but you're gonna do it better because you're gonna speak to a group of people that you can speak to in the times that make sense for. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense.
Right. And that's why I said I feel like we would have gotten even more if they would have included Americans in this conversation.
Yeah, and on top of that, I feel like it's a little insensitive on how he's expressing how y'all as Ethiopians, which I know is not true, but this is 1958 and this is what he's saying, how they don't care about not having Negro blood, about what's happening to the South Africans. And
well, was it not true? Like, how did the government feel?
Well, I'm just saying well, you're right. I don't know how true it is or not, but it's to me from his mouth. Right. It's insensitive to say.
It is insensitive.
You know what I'm saying?
It is.
That's like your neighboring country. You know what I'm saying? You just blowing them apart, like saying, I'm not going to focus on y'all, whatever y'all got going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just insensitive to me.
I want to hear what she got to say.
Could I just ask you another question before I answer yours?
Yeah.
Is there any discrimination, for instance, between the separate tribes in your country? How do you, for instance...
I'm very happy you brought that point. As a matter of fact, we, the Amhara tribes, consider ourselves superior to the other tribes, to the adjacent tribes that live in this same community. And we just consider them inferior and consider ourselves superior. And that could be something of segregation, but it's not actually in the sense that you take it and the Americans in Little Rock take it. It's just very unprominent.
Do you mean that you think that the other tribes are perhaps a little too primitive, for instance?
Not a matter of primitiveness or so. It's just a matter of ignorance, I shall say.
Yeah, he going
the Amhara tribes are more cute and clever. And that's why, they're just...
That's your tribe?
Yeah, that's my tribe.
That's very modest, yeah. And you have whites in Ethiopia?
White people? Foreigners?
White people, yes.
Yeah, lots of them. We have the Americans, as a matter of fact. They're working in different departments. And I'd like to say one point on that. They seem to be more cooperative in... they looked as though they are cooperative in my country. And I thought it was because they were in a foreign country that they should cooperate. But no, I proved it right here. They have families in communities and things like that. They are more cooperative than I actually saw it in my country.
Just to get back to another point.
No, girl,
do you then think, for instance, it's fair that if there is discrimination in Ethiopia, even between, the same race and the same nation...
Not the same race, of course the same nation.
The same nation. But do you think then it's fair to judge South Africans as white towards black? If you don't, for instance, acknowledge the the less good Ethiopians. Well,
we do acknowledge them. I don't mean we don't actually consider our discrimination, what you call it, is not as prominent and worldwide known as it's in South Africa. That's it.
Well, what are we actually saying here? That there is all kinds of discrimination, and discrimination is all right as long as it isn't too prominent, or as long as it isn't between black and white? What are we saying here anyway?
No, it's like this. She said, do you think the discriminations in your country is good, or the discrimination, the segregation?
Excuse me, let's hear from Susie on this, because Brazil's got a special point of view, I'm sure.
No, what they wanted to say is that he was telling her that she has discrimination.
Am I tripping, or did she not answer nothing? She just kept asking.
She kept asking more questions.
Question.
Yeah, it's not giving unity. It's giving one-sided.
We not gonna do that because we're in the United States right now dealing with segregation. That's what it's giving me.
Hold on.
Because why are we going to Brazil?
She about to speak on it too, though.
I'm sorry, segregation. And she's telling him that he has a kind of segregation too. And he won't admit it.
I did. I just told you first of all. How did you happen to know it?
You consider
I
your
told you.
segregation different.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're all different.
Well, what's it like in Brazil, Susie?
Well, my country has a very good point, a point of advantage in that, because we have no segregation at all. And we could be in the same position as the United States, because we had slaves just the same as they did, just about the same time as they did. Only our country...
Hold on.
Go back, I'm reading.
Hold on. I'm because it's the muffledness of it, you know what I'm saying? But
and it's not, the captions is not exactly what they're saying. Like,
it's trying to make out what they're saying as well. So y'all can only imagine what we're listening. You know,
how did you happen to know it?
You consider your segregation different.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're all different.
Well, what's it like in Brazil, Susie?
Well, my country has a very good point, a point of advantage in that, because we have no segregation at all. And we could be in the same position as the United States, because we had slaves just the same as they did, just about the same time as they did. Only our country was a colony of Portugal, the United States was a colony of England. The Englands are Anglo-Saxons, the Portuguese are Latins. And the Latin race, mingles very easily. So there were marriages between black and white. They form mulattoes, which are not black and are not white. They mingle and mingle and mingle. So now we don't have black and white. We have all sorts of colors, from white to very black, with light brown in between. And in Brazil, there's just no question if that person has a little Negro blood, like here in the States. He has 1/8 of Negro blood, he's considered a Negro. He has 1/16, he's considered white. We just don't have it. You look at the person, look at another one, they're people. That's what's different. And I wanted to ask you something, Rena.
all right. We actually talked about the miscegenation in Brazil. And, you know, we talked about all of that, but we also saw the repercussions of all that.
Yeah.
Where now the people didn't realize they were black.
Yeah.
And the Pedros, and we talked about all of that.
They didn't know the history.
Yeah.
Similar to the Italian when she was like, what happened?
Right.
Yeah.
And so now that they're connecting with their black identity, we see all of that now. We've reacted to a couple videos about Brazil on that. So if y'all want to go find that, it's in our South America playlist.
Yeah, go check that out. So was her comment more so to say that we could have been like America and had more African people in Brazil,
right,
depending upon slaves? But she said their slaves was more Portuguese.
The relationship and how they treated them. Okay. You know, we've seen that on other colonies as well when we talk about slavery. But here, if you had one drop, you was a Negro. Right? So I feel like that's what she's saying.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
and,
okay.
you know, the separation and segregation and the Jim Crow laws and it's 1958.
Well, at least she's acknowledging there's some Africans in America. African Americans now.
African American. I need the South African girl. I need to hear what she got to say. Like,
okay.
She's flying because she keep asking these questions.
Yeah, we're running out of time too, so we're going to try to get the rest of this in.
There's a great segregation in your country. That's right. And in your country, do you have prejudices against the black people?
Well, I wouldn't actually say prejudices. Perhaps I should just explain this to you. Everybody seems to have heard of apartheid during the last few months, years.
That's not funny.
And I think it's perhaps misinterpreted in most instances. I'll tell you what apartheid actually means. It means the development of two separate racial groups within their own areas.
Oh.
And Susie, you said that there is no discrimination whatsoever in Brazil.
Nah, she just got off of her topic real quick. She got off of her topic real quick. The receipts don't add up, sugar.
Segregation
baby.
in their own communities within a country.
The receipts hit different.
I don't care if it's 1930, 1958, 2024. Their own groups within their own communities in their own countries.
Yeah.
It is not right.
Could you just tell me more or less, are there more whites or more blacks in Brazil?
There are more whites.
There are more whites?
Yes, there are more whites. But you can say white and black. White and not white.
Oh, yeah.
Because the blacks aren't just black. They're all colored, as I told you. Because the whites marry very easily with the black and with the Indians. In Brazil, that happens very much. So we just don't count blacks and whites. Just people, you know. It's very different from your country.
For instance, would you marry a
black one?
A black one?
I think that I personally wouldn't marry a black one because my parents wouldn't approve of it.
I told y'all we had so many names, but a black one is different.
A black one?
You know what? I could imagine somebody calling me
a black one.
The black one.
The black one.
That's what they said.
Wait a minute.
Don't you think that's a little bit of discrimination?
It is.
I'm sure.
On my part, I wouldn't. But I'm not a real Brazilian because my parents are Swiss. But the real Brazilian,
yes, they would.
Yes, they would. And they do. They do very often. They do it all the time, in
So
fact.
she's not really
Yes,
Brazilian.
there's really no discrimination in this. But now, let me come back to the question. You said you have a kind of prejudice in your country. Do you have it here? Do you feel any prejudice against a black person here? Do you feel kind of awkward?
Oh, no, not in the least. For instance, I think that integration in America is perfectly right. And I think it should be done.
Okay.
And therefore I approve of it. But I just don't see how integration would work in South Africa, at least not for the present. For in South Africa, it's 3 million whites against 12 million. Whilst in America, it's altogether different. And I'm quite assured that the present policy that we follow is going to be the solution of the problem at last. Actually,
Hold up. A solution of the problem okay. So is it okay? So do she approve it because it was always more whites than it was blacks here? Is that why she approved it? It's more blacks than whites in South Africa.
Feel like they have.
So she didn't approve it because it was more of the other race than them.
I'm not clear on
People
what she's
is
saying.
people, regardless.
That's
Okay,
what she's
so
saying?
yeah, she says she don't see how it would work there because I don't remember the numbers exactly.
In South Africa, right?
Right.
Yeah, she said
I
3 million to 12.
Yeah, 3 million whites to 12 million blacks. She don't see how it would work there.
Because there's more blacks than whites, but in America there's more whites than blacks, so it would work better in America?
Yeah, she approved of the integration here.
Nah, I don't know.
It's something else underlining.
Yeah, that's
And
what
I'm so glad that is no longer the topic.
Nah, real talk.
I'm so glad that it's not because let it play, Lord.
Could you imagine the Brazilian problem having been solved like that?
No, it won't ever work. Because people are people. They can't be separated. You stay here, you stay here. You are white, you are black. You can't. Are you God to judge what they have to do, where they have to stay? You have to go in those schools, they have to go in those schools. You marry with this one, she marries that one. No.
No, it's not a question of who is God and who's going to judge. But it's a civilization against a civilization. After all, it is the white South Africans that have built up South Africa to where it is now. With the help of the other, but with the supervision. With the supervision of the...
She said, who did the heavy work?
Oh, yes, perhaps it should. But I don't know. After all, it's not fair to think that South Africans should just quit all their good work right here. For instance, I couldn't tell what is going to happen in future, but I think for the present time, there is no other solution. For what would you think?
Well, I think that people have a right to live as they want to. I think you can't put a barrier between people.
Facts.
Let them go and do as they wish to. If they want to go to your schools, let them. If they don't want to, okay.
I'm sorry, our time's up for your
I'm
job.
gonna stop it right there, man.
Not at that point. Brazil was cooking.
Brazil was coming for. That's what I'm talking about.
Listen.
Yeah, I didn't. It's sad, bro. How when you colonize, I mean, it's no different from like how it was in America during slavery. When they brought everybody over, they was building up the schools, the banks, the bars, everything that they was using. They was forcing them to make sure they had it built at a certain time. And then they would have the paper to put their names on it and say, I was the owner of this, but they didn't really do the labor for it. No, and it's the same. It's the same in South Africa, which is the dominant race of African people. And now you're taking them out of it to say that we're going to colonize y'all and say that we are the doers of everything. It just don't make sense.
That they built it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I like about this whole, all
panel.
of the panel, I like, it makes me think about the Brazilian way a little differently. When we talk about the miscegenation, people are people. You know, they intermarried. I feel like they dealt with their problems a little better than we did here.
Yeah.
I'm not Brazilian, so I can't really speak for everything. But what I felt for them for is when adults were just starting to tap into their black identity. But like what she was saying on how it was a Latin colony, when you look at how the different colonies handled their slaves differently, and you see how in the United States, how they call us the lost culture, the lost tribes, the lost people.
Yeah.
Because they handle us a little bit more stricter
100%
than the other colonies. And we see that. So 1958.
Let us know what y'all think about it, man. From everybody, they all had something to say. Very different compared to how a lot of us may look at things today too.
Definitely.
Very different.
Definitely.
But yeah, let's cut up in the comment section, bro. We'd love to hear what y'all gotta say.
Yes. Yeah. All right, y'all. We hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Be sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Peace.